Okay, so here's part 2 of these notes, and this is looking at the law of cosines. So again, just like the law of sines, the law of cosines can be used to find side lengths and angle measurements for any triangle, not just right triangles, any triangle. Okay, these kind of seem confusing at first, so just bear with me. But basically, again, if I'm given a triangle ABC, just like the one on the front, where the lowercase of the letter of the angle is opposite, or is its opposite side. So angle A, the opposite side is lowercase a, and so on. Given triangle ABC, if I'm trying to find, well, here, I have these formulas here. So the first one is a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc times the cosine of angle A. So if I'm trying to find this side right here, and I have sides B and C, and its opposite angle, I can do that. Okay, and so it's the same for B and C as well. So B squared equals A squared plus C squared minus 2AC times the cosine of angle B. And C squared equals, A squared plus B squared minus 2AC times the cosine of C. Okay. So let's I feel like this is easier to do when it's put to use. So I need to use the law of cosines to solve for x. All right. Here's the side I'm trying to find. I got to look and say, okay, 1, do I have the other 2 sides? Check. Also, do I have its opposite angle? Check. If I don't have those 3 things, I cannot use my law of cosines. Okay. Now I set it up into this formula here. I'm just going to call it side A. Sure, we'll call this one side A. This can be B, and this can be C. It really doesn't matter which one's which. Okay, so that makes this angle A. So I'm going to set this up, x squared equals 7 squared plus 12 squared. So the side I'm trying to find squared is equal to the other 2 sides I have squared added together minus 2 times those other 2 sides that I have times the cosine of the opposite angle, which is 65. Okay, and now all I do is solve. So x squared equals 49 plus 144 minus 168 times the cosine of 65. So this is 7 squared, this is 12 squared, and then I went ahead and took 2 times 7 times 12 to get 168 times the cosine of 65. And then you can go ahead and add 49 plus 144 if you want. And so x squared equals 193 minus 168 times the cosine of 65. And then put this in your calculator. You could put this whole thing in your calculator as well if you wanted to. Then you end up with x squared equals 122. However, you can't stop there because this is still x squared. We want to just find x. So we have to take the square root of both of those. X equals, and then the square root of 122 is 11.1. Okay. Again, round to the nearest tenth on your final answer. This one, well, I'll go ahead and we can do number 2 as well. Okay. So I think setting it up is the hardest part. Basically, you have to look at what's given. Again, once I'm going to tell you, pay attention to what's given. You have to look, okay, here's the side I'm trying to find. First things first, do I have the other 2 sides? Yes, I do. Next thing, do I have its opposite angle? Yes, I do. Okay. So let's look at number 2. We'll do that one together as well. Okay. Here's the side I'm trying to find. All right. Do I have the other 2 sides of the triangle? Yes, I do. Do I have its opposite angle? Yes, I do. Cool. Now I can set this up. So x squared equals 20 squared plus 25 squared minus 2 times 20 times 25 times the cosine of 108 degrees. And again, I just start putting things in my calculator now and solving for x. Let's see, 400 plus 625 minus 1,000 times the cosine of 108. Okay. So then x squared equals 1,025 minus 1,000 times the cosine of 108. And then x squared equals 1,334.02. So this is what I was trying to get at in the first one. It rounded really nicely when we got to this point. If it doesn't, give me 2 decimal places, at least, if not more. Okay. Then take the square root of that, leaving me with x equals 36.5. And that's it. So you're setting this up. You're taking the side I'm trying to find, x squared, equal to 1 of the other sides squared plus the other side squared, minus 2 times both of those sides, times the cosine of its opposite angle. Okay. So 3 and 4 are the same as 1 and 2. Let's flip it over and look at the back. This is where it gets a little bit trickier, is finding the angles. It's not trickier, it just takes more steps. So now I'm trying to find the missing angle. So again, I have to look for the same things. Basically, when I'm trying to find a missing angle, using the law of cosines, I have to just see if I have all 3 sides of the triangle. If I do, then I can keep going. I can do this. If I don't have all 3 sides, then I can't use the law of cosines. Setting this up, though, is particular. You can't just start and pick which ones you want to set where. You have to pay attention to which one is opposite the angle you're trying to find. So 7 is opposite of x degrees. So that's going to be what your equation is equal to. So 7 squared equals, and then you start plugging in your other values. 11 squared minus 2 times 11 times 12 times the cosine of x. Okay. Now I just start solving. 49 equals 144 plus 121 minus 264 times the cosine of x. Okay, so then 49 equals 265 minus 264 times the cosine of x. I'm going to stop here just for a second. Remember your order of operations. I can't take 265 minus 264 first because my order of operations tell me I have to do multiplication first. So as of right here, I can't simplify any more on this side. But now I can start solving for x, which means I'm trying to get cosine of x by itself first. So in order to do that, I have to move this 265 over first. I have to take both sides, minus 265. Okay, so I end up with negative 216 equals, I can draw a line here, negative 264 times the cosine of x. Pay attention, that minus sign sticks with that 264. Okay. Now, I keep going. I divide both sides by negative 264. Put that in my calculator. I end up with 0.8182 equals, those are going to then cancel, the cosine of x. Now, this should look familiar. I should know where to go from here. I use my inverse cosine function. So I take cosine, or inverse cosine of 0.8182. Put that in my calculator, and I should end up with x equals 35.1 degrees as my final answer. So all this is just some tedious algebra. I know these cosine functions can kind of seem or make things seem more confusing, but they're really not. Basically, until you get the cosine of the variable or the sine of the variable all by itself on one side of the equal sign, they have to stick together. The rest is just doing your reverse operations. Okay? You can think of it as a algebra problem. For instance, negative 216 equals. It's the same thing as saying this right here. Except for this x just has this weird cosine attached to it up here. So all it is algebra. We'll go ahead and do number 6 because it's a little bit different. So, all right. Do I have all three sides first thing? I do. Cool. Now I can begin. Except I have to look which side is opposite of my angle I'm trying to find. 35. That's going to tell me how I need to set this up. So 35 squared equals 16 squared plus 24 squared minus 2 times 24 times the cosine of x. Zoom in just a bit here. All right, then I start going. Okay, so this is 35 squared, this is 16 squared, this is 24 squared, and then this 768 is where I took 2 times 16 times 24. Okay, then I keep simplifying. I'm going to add 256 plus 576 to give me 832. Minus 768 times the cosine of x. Then I need to subtract that. So I'm left with 393 equals negative 768 times the cosine of x. Then I need to divide both sides by negative 768 so that those will cancel, leaving that cosine of x all by itself. Okay, so then I end up with negative 0.5117 equal to the cosine of x. Okay. Now this is why I decided to do this one because it's a little bit different. Because this is a negative number. That's okay. You can take the cosine or the inverse cosine of a negative number. We just haven't done that yet. So then when you're setting up your final answer, you should end up with the inverse cosine of negative 0.5117. Just make sure you carry that negative sign over when you're doing your inverse cosine function. So then you should end up with x equals 120.8 degrees. Okay. So then 7 and 8 are just like that. Those two. Okay. So go ahead and finish it's 3 and 4 and 7 and 8. And then that will complete the part 2. So make sure that you do both part 1 and part 2 for Thursday. I just want to make sure that you guys get your full points.